am going to start with the sponsors, and then we'll go, of course, with our Gemara for today. Okay? A Year of Learning by Dr. Paul Koningsberg in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Labish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nissen Hara, Nissen ben Fardosa. Paul and Bob Bromberg in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malka Mann in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi. Friends of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov. Friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef. Friends of Avi Gidler, Avrameir ben Shimon. Cheryl Scher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Harav Akiva. Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel ben Harav Shimon. A Month of Learning by Gila and Harold Saltzman, in memory of her mother, Eti bat Yitzchak Elchanan, by Chaim and Phyllis Reese, in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa, and by Phyllis and Chaim Reese, in memory of her father, Pinchas ben Avraham. A Week of Learning by Ron and Susan Podolsky, in memory of his mother, Freivel Bashraga Feivel. And that is it for today. May the Neshamas have an Aliyah, Kranka Rafia, Velda Yeshir, Shema Talia, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Gaben Shtiyar. Okay. All right. You'll remember that we left off a little bit on the top of Chet Amud Aleph on Friday. I'm sorry. We left off the other day, actually on the top of Zion, and the Gemara then continued through. And I thought I would pick up this morning really on the very bottom line of Zion Amud Beis. Okay? And then that would give us a reference back to the search for chametz and issues regarding the search for chametz. Okay? So on the bottom of the of Zion Amud Beis, last line, Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita, Ein bodkin lo laor hachama. We do not do our search by the light of the sun, v'lo laor halvana, and not by the light of the moon, v'lo laor ha'avuka, and not by the light of a torch, v'lo laor haner, laor haner. Now, we've got two different explanations here, okay? Art Scroll prefers to translate it, haner here, directly as candle, and Koren prefers to describe it as lamp, okay? So keep that in mind as we continue. Why, says the Gemara, on top of Chet Amud Aleph, Mepnei she'or haner yafeh lebedika, because the light of the ner, of the candle or the lamp, is more appropriate, is more effective for the search. Va'af al pi she'ein raya ledavar zeiche ledavar. And even though there's no clear source, so to speak, no clear proof, okay, we see, however, that there is some reference, allusion to it. Right? Shivat yamim se'or lo yimatzei bevatechem. The pasuk saying that 7 days shall not find leaven in one's home. Ve'omer And it said, V'yichapes begadol hechel. And then there you have another pasuk, okay, that said they began the search with the oldest and went down to the youngest. Right? That was with the Yosef story. Va'omer, and then it says, Ba'etahi echapes et Yerushalayim b'neirot. Okay, so we find another pasuk using Zereshava, this time again, that they will search Jerusalem with candles. Right? And then, Va'omer ner Hashem nishmat Adam, that the candle represents the soul of Hashem, okay, searching in the chambers of one's hearts. Okay, so these were all the case. Chofes, okay, kol chidrei batan, searches in the chambers of one's hearts. Okay, so we pick up now with a discussion of that Braita. Remember, the Braita said cannot use the light of the sun, right? Well, we already saw that it said it should be done in the evening. Okay, so is that problematic? Gemara raises this point. Hai or hachama, hechidami. Regarding the light of the sun, under what situation would it be appropriate? Inema bechatzer. If we're saying searching in a courtyard, ha'amar Rava, did not Rava say, chatzer einat tzricha b'dika, that a courtyard does not require any sort of search. Why is that the case? Mipnei sheha'orvin mitzuyin sham. Why? Because ravens, birds, are common there, and they will eat whatever leaven could be left there. Ela ba'achsadra. Rather, we're talking about a portico. Okay? Remember, a portico, at least when we saw the discussion between Rashi and Tosafot, there was some difference of opinion, but it was clearly generally thought to be a structure that had a ceiling, okay, but no walls around it, okay? So what happens? Ha'amar Rava. And didn't Rava say in regard to that situation, Achsadra le'ora nivdeket, that the Achsadra can be searched for chometz by its own light. In other words, by whatever sunlight comes through and can be seen. So the Gemara says, lo, no, that's not the point. Tzricha, it was necessary to raise this question, la'aruba, de becheder, in regards to a skylight that is in a room. Udehecha, okay, and where? Ila bahade aruba, if we're talking about a particular skylight, in other words, light coming through from above or the sides, hainu achsadra, that would be the same situation as the achsadra, as the pavilion. Ela litzdadim, but rather we say it can only refer to light coming in from the sides to check the pavilion. Okay, now we go to the next part of the Braita. It said we cannot use an avuka, a torch. Va'avuka lo, and a torch no. Va'amar Rava, and didn't Rava say, Mai dichtiv, isn't it written in a pasuk, right? The following, right? Text, V'noga ka'or tihiyeh karnaya miyado lo, v'sham havyon, uzya, the glow of the future world, I'm reading translation from Art Scroll, will be for the righteous like the light of the days of creation. Rays of light will come from his hand to him, the righteous man, but there its hidden strength will be. Okay, so in other words, what is this pasuk trying to tell us? That the light of a torch is a stronger light, has many beams, very much brightness. Okay, lamat tzadikim domim bifnei shechina. So we ask then, interpreting the pasuk, to what are righteous individuals compared to vis-a-vis the Shekhinah, kaner b'fnei ha'avuka. They are more like a candle or a lamp compared to a torch. Va'amar Rava, and Rava has also said, avuka lahavdalah mitzvah min hamuvchar, that the use of a torch, here in other words, a multi-wicked item, okay, is preferable, okay, to performing the mitzvah of Havdalah. So again, this seems to say, if you're searching, why not use the torch, which is more powerful? Answer is now presented. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. He responds as possible. Ze yachol lachniso lechurinu v'listakim. This one, namely the lamp or the candle, one can put into holes or examine holes and cracks. And this other one, namely the torch, you cannot benefit from using it to examine cracks or holes. Another answer, Rav Zavid Amar, Ze oro lefanav, v'ze oro la'achorav. Namely, according to Rav Zavid, the light of a candle or a lamp projects in front of it, but the light of a torch projects behind it. Okay, so that's another problem. Excuse me. Another attempted example. Answer. Rav Papa Amar, says Rav Papa, Hai ba'et, v'hai lo ba'et. In one case, we're afraid for a fire, and in another case, we're not afraid for a fire. That's why it may be that ner might be better here if understood as lamp rather than as candle. Okay? Ravina Amar, says Ravina, Hai mashach nahora, v'hai miktaf iktufe. That in one case, we see the light extends, right, just carried over, and in the other case, the light sort of fluctuates, it flickers on the torch. Again, so all of these examples why the use of the light of a lamp or a candle is preferred, based on that bright. Now we get back to another part of our Mishnah, right? Telling us where it is that we're required to search. Kol makom she'ein machnisin chuli. We said every place, right? Or any place where we don't bring in chametz, it's not required to search. Kol makom, when it says any place or all places, la tuye mai, to include what? La tuye ha tetanu rabbanan, to include that which was taught in the following braita, chorei bayit, okay? Ha'elyonim v'hatachtonim. If you have holes in the house, in the walls, and they're way up high, or they're way down below, okay? Secondly, v'gag hayitziyah, the roof of the porch or the veranda, okay? Maybe a slanted roof. V'gag hamigdal, or the roof of a closet. V'refet bakar, or a cowshed. V'lulim, or we have here now, right, for chicken coop, okay, for example. Umitban, or a shed for keeping straw. V'otzrot yayin v'otzrot shemen, or storehouses for wine or storehouses for oil. Ein tzrichin b'dika, says the Braita. These places do not need searching. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says, Mita hacholeket b'toch habayit umafseket. If one has a bed and they use this bed as a kind of partition in the house, and umafseket, and there's a gap, right? Tzricha b'dika. That requires, in other words, there may be a gap between the bottom of the bed and the floor, okay? That underneath that bed requires searching. Urminhu, but will raise a contradiction based apparently on another braita. Chor shebein adam lechavero, if there is a hole in the wall between one apartment and another, okay? Ze bodek ad makom she'ado magad. This one has to search up to as far as his arm can reach. V'ze bodek ad makom she'ado magad. And the other one also searches until the point that his hand reaches, right? V'hashar mivat lo belibo. And the rest, if there's any other, right, they will just do bitul personally, so to speak, in their heart. Okay. Now, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel omer, mitah choleket b'toch habayit. If you have a bed, again, that's used as a separation, ve'etzim va'avanim sturim tachteha, and you have wood or stones arranged underneath the bed, umafseket, and there's a gap there, einat tzricha b'dika. There is no need to do a search. So Gemara says, between these two braitas, kasha mita amita, kasha chorin achorin. There's a problem with one example of the bed. There's a problem with another example of the holes in the wall. And now the Gemara answers us. Chorin achorin lo kasha. Regarding the holes in the walls between two apartments, there's not necessarily a problem. Ha be'ilai ubatatai. Here we're talking about those that are way up high or those that are down low, okay? Below 3 tfachim, for example. Vaha b'metziai. And the other braita that says that you do have to search and be mevatel in your heart, that's if the holes are in the middle. Mita amita lo kasha. One bed to another bed. Also, we don't necessarily have a problem. Ha, the midlaya. In one case, the bed is high up. Ha, the mitataya. In the other case, the bed is low, right? And there's barely any room between the bottom of the bed and anything stored under the bed, like wood or stone. Okay. Now we go to another part of the Braita. The Braita said that we didn't have to check, didn't have to search for storehouses of wine or of oil. Right? V'otzrot yayin ein tzrich badika. Storehouses of wine don't need searching. V'hatanya. But as in a taught elsewhere in a Braita, otzrot yayin tzarich badika. That storehouses for wine do require search. Otzrot shemen ein tzarich badika. Storehouses for oil do not require searching. Hacha b'mai yaskinin, what are we talking about here? B'mistapek. We're talking about a situation where the person supplies his own wine or oil during the course of a meal. Ihachi shemanami. If that's the case, wouldn't we say also that a storehouse of oil also would require search? So the Gemara explains, Shemen yesh keva la'achila. Regarding the use of oil, okay, there is a set amount that would be used for eating. In other words, remember they use the oil for cooking, okay, or they use the oil for dipping, okay, and therefore they would know that based on the number of people, how much oil per se would be needed. Yayin ein keva l'shtiya. But in terms of wine, there's no clear idea how much wine is going to be drunk during the meal. And therefore, it might be necessary, okay, for someone to go back down to the wine cellar to get additional bottles. And who's to say they might not, if it's a servant, might not have some sort of crumbs or a sandwich or whatever with them. Now, Tani Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia says the following: Asu otzrot shechar b'Bavel ke'otzrot yayin be'eretz Yisrael b'mistapek. According to Rabbi Chia, in Babylonia, they had warehouses, storehouses for beer, since that was the common drink, as opposed to Eretz Yisrael, okay, where the common drink was wine. But it's still a situation where one would supply his own beverage during the meal. Amar Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, furthermore, Beidagim, in regards to a location where fish are kept. Okay? Remember, maybe they salted the fish or they did, okay, something and kept the fish in a shed or something. Ein sarich b'dika. It does not require search. Vahatanya. But the Gemara raises the question here with a braita, tzrichim b'dika, saying that it does require search. Lo kasha, that's not a problem, says the Gemara. Ha b'rav ravi. Here in one case we're talking about large fish. Okay. Ha b'zutre. Here in another case we're talking about small fish. If you have large fish, we can explain it one way, that you know the number of guests, you take out a large fish, you cut up the fish for the number of pieces. Or maybe you don't take out as much large fish because they're more expensive. But with small fish, you have no idea how much totally is going to be eaten when you have guests. And you might need more. Again, Amar Rava ba Rav Huna. Bei Malche, a house where salt is stored. Ubei Kere, or a place where wax for candles is stored. Tzarich B'dika. Those require searching. Why? Because again, it may be a situation that you don't know how much is going to be utilized, right? And therefore may have to send someone, a servant, in there. Amar Rav Papa, according to Rav Papa, Beit Tzivi, even a woodshed, Ubeit Tamre, or even a shed for olives, right? Tzarich B'dika. It also needs a search. Tana, and we have a Tana who teaches, Ein mechayvino to lachnis yado lechorin u'lestakin livdok mipnei hasakana. Coming back to what we saw before, this Tana says one doesn't require a person to put their hand into the holes or into the cracks in the wall because of danger. My sakana, what kind of danger? Inema mipnei sakanat akrav. If we're going to say it's because of fear of an akrav, a scorpion, okay? Ki mishtamesh, hechi hishtamesh. If he's using these holes or cracks for storage, how else? If it's fear, why would he use it? On what basis would he be using it? Lo tzricha dinafal. No, we're talking about a situation where the wall could have crumbled, could have fallen down. Okay? In other words, initially he could have used the wall to store things in holes. But once the wall has fallen, who's to say that there couldn't be scorpions crawling around under the ruins? Okay? So the Gemara continues, right? Inafal lama li bedika. If rocks and things had fallen on the leaven, why does it need any search? V'hatnan, because aren't we taught in the Mishnah, chametz shenafla alav mapolet, harehu kimevu'ar, that any chametz upon which has fallen some sort of a wall or whatever, right? Collapse, right? Doesn't require, right? It's as if it's already been destroyed. Hatam, there, says the Gemara, she'ein hakelev yachol lechapes acharav. That's only a situation where a dog is not going to go and search after it, dig after it. A dog is considered to be able to dig 3 tfachim. Hacha, keshehakelev yachol lechapes acharav. Here we're talking about a situation where even though the wall fell down, okay, the dog could still search after any foodstuffs there. V'ha'amar Rabbi Elazar. But didn't Rabbi Elazar say, Shluchei mitzvah einan nezikuyim, that those who are about to trying on the practice or on the approach to perform a mitzvah, they do not get hurt? Amar Rav Ashi. Says Rav Ashi, Shema tovad lo machat. Perhaps the person lost something like a needle. Va'ate le'uyune batra. And he comes to look for it afterwards. V'chi hai gavna. And in that particular kind of case, lav mitzvahu, that isn't a mitzvah. V'hatanya. But aren't we taught in a Braita, ha'omer sela zo litzdaka, b'shvil sheyechyeh b'ni, one who says, I'm designating this coin as charity for the health, welfare of my son, o sheheyeh ben oholam haba, or that I will merit the world to come. Let's go over. Harei zet tzaddik gamor. We say that is a person who is completely righteous. Therefore, right, they should be protected. So Gemara answers, Dilma batar de badak atel eyune batra. Maybe after he's done the badika, that's when he goes back to do the search for the needle or whatever, and therefore in that case, since he's not doing a mitzvah, or perhaps he's done the search and then looking for the needle as well, okay? And therefore, his intent was not completely to do the mitzvah, okay? That wasn't the ikar of what he was doing. In that case, can we really say that he would be exempt from any danger? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar Mishum Sakanat Hanochrim. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak gives a different explanation of what danger there might be. Okay? Uflimo he, and that is the explanation given by Plimo. Tatane, who taught, Chor Shebein Yehudi la'aramai, if there is a wall, a hole in the wall between a Jew and a Gentile, bodek ad makom shiado magad, that he would search up to the point that his hand can reach. V'hashar mivat lo belibo, and the rest, says the Tanakama, one can be mevatel in their heart. Uflimo amar, however, Flimo says, Kol atzmo eino bodek mipnei hasakana. The entire item, says, one does not need to search because of a danger. Mai sakana, what danger is Plimo referring to? Inema sakanat kshafim. if we're saying that perhaps there's a concern about witchcraft, okay? The implication here is going to be, as we continue in a moment with the Gemara, that the Gentile might perceive that the Jew searching in that hole between their apartments with a light is going to try to perform witchcraft on him. The Gentile will then take revenge and do something to the Jew. So the Gemara asks, Ki ish tamish, if he uses it, the Jew, Hechi ish tamish, on what basis then would he feel, I'll say, comfortable using it, right? Hatam ki ish tamish yamama unahora. There, in that situation, he utilized it during the day and it was light. Velo masik adate. And therefore the Gentile would have, sorry, excuse me. And it wouldn't occur to the mind of the Gentile that the Jew would be trying to do something regarding witchcraft. Hacha, but here when he searches, right, and we said it's to the evening, Lelia vishargahu, okay, it's night, and he uses some sort of a lamp, hu umasik adate, and therefore it occurs to the Gentile that maybe the Jew intends to perform witchcraft on him. Now, v'ha'amal Rabbi Elazar. But again, we raise that question. Didn't Rabbi Elazar say, shluchei mitzvah einam nizukim, right? That those performing a mitzvah do not get hurt? Heicha deshachiach hizika shani. But where it's common for there to be a source of danger, that's different. Shnei amar, as we find a pasuk that says, okay, the following, right? Namely, Vayomer Shmuel, Ech elech v'shama Shaul, v'haragini v'yomer Hashem, eglet bakar tikach biyadecha. Okay, Shmuel being afraid to go see Saul, right, that Saul would kill him, and therefore he's told to bring something, right? Now, at this point, the Gemara is going to continue, okay? Since we've raised a question about situations whether shluchei mitzvah are protected, and we want to clarify under what conditions, we have a digression here to continue with that motif. Ba'umine me Rav. They asked the following question of Rav. Hani b'nei bei Rav, d'daire b'ba'aga. Those students of Rav, his academy, who live, so to speak, out in the fields, in the meadows, okay, or what we would call the boondocks, the outskirts, right? Mahu l'maite kadma. What about when they come early in the morning while it's still dark? V'chashucha lebei Rav, or at night to go back from, in this case, the academy? Amar laho, Rav answered them, Nitu alai, let it be on me, ba'al tzavarai, and on my neck, so to speak. Okay, like that. Nizil mai. What about going back, asks the Gemara. Amar laho, lo yadana, says that I don't know. Now, Gemara continues. Itmar, it was said, Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, shluchei mitzvah einan nizukim, that those who perform mitzvah, in this case, these students, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, are not going to be harmed. Lo b'halichatan, v'lo b'chaziratan. Kiman, neither in their going or their coming. According to whom? Ki hai Tana, according to the particular Tana that taught to Tanya, Isi ben Yehuda Omer, that Isi ben Yehuda says, Klape she'amra Torah, as it says regarding the Torah, right? Which is as follows, namely, okay, V'lo yachmod ish et artzecha, namely, no man or person will covet your land. Milamed shetehe paratcha ro'ah ba'afar, comes to teach us that when your cow pastures, let's say in the meadow, in the field, ve'ein chaya mazikata, that no wild animal will cause it damage. Tarnagolatcha menakeret ba'ashpa, or if your hen, okay, pecks around in the ashpa, in the garbage pile, ve'ein chulda mezikata, that no weasel or marten will cause it harm. Okay? Notice the implication is that if a person, as we're going to see, goes to make a aliyah l'regel for one of the holidays, okay, when he's away, okay, doesn't that imply that his property is protected? V'halot dvarim kal v'chomer, and shouldn't there be a kal v'chomer here? Uma elu shedarkan lazuk, where in these items there's a frequency, a situation that they might get damaged. Einan nizukin, they don't become damaged. Bnei adam she'en darkan lazuk, but people who are not commonly, okay, going to be harmed, okay, alachat kama v'chama, how much more so? So the Gemara responds, en le bahalicha, that may apply to their going. B'chazara minayim, on their return, right? How do we know this, right? Talmud Lomar, says a text, upanita baboker va'alachta la'ohalecha. Okay, namely, right? The pasuk says, okay, you will turn in the morning and go back to your tents. Right? What is that telling us? Namely, you will go back and find your tents, your homes in peace. And how do we know, okay, that that this occurs, a person's protected even upon their return? Bahalicha lamali, okay, but in the going, how about that? Look at the Rav Ami, according to the view of Rav Ami. The Amar Rav Ami kol adam sheyesh lo karka olela regel, that any person who has land or property and goes up to Jerusalem for the pilgrimage festival, okay, that person then is protected. V'she'em lo karka, but if a person does not have land, okay, ein olela regel, then he does not have to go up to Jerusalem for the pilgrimage festival. Now, Gemara comes back now, again, with a part of this digression, okay, and says to us as follows. Okay. Amar Ravi Avin, Bar Rav Ada, Amar Rav Yitzchak. Mepnei ma ein perot ginosar b'Yushalayim. Why is it such that the fruits, the great fruits, tasty, moist, generous fruits that grow in the Genesar Valley in the north are not found in Jerusalem? Kadei shelo yiyu ole reglaim omrim, so that pilgrims will not say, ilmole lo alinu, ela le'echol perot genosar b'Yushalayim dayenu. Why? Nimtzeit aleh shelo lishma. Okay. In other words, the concern here is that the aliyah regel to Jerusalem should be performed for the mitzvah and not with any other ulterior motive, like going to be able to eat these succulent fruits. Okay? So the Gemara then tells us, excuse me, Kiyotse bo, in a similar manner, Amar Rab Dusta'ai Bar Yanai said, Mipnei ma ein chamei Tiberia b'Yerushalayim. Why isn't that the hot springs of Tiberias aren't found in Jerusalem? Kadei shelo yiyu olei regalim omrim. So again, those going on the pilgrimage for the holidays, right, wouldn't say, Il malei lo alinu ela lerchotz b'chamei Tiberia dayenu. That going up for the wash in the warm springs, that was enough. V'nimtzeit aliyah shelo lishma. And again, their going up would not be for the sake of the mitzvah, but for an ulterior motive, which is not the purpose. Okay, having finished those digressions, okay, the Gemara comes back to our initial topic for B'dika. Okay, and remember now, our Mishnah said, if one went down to the martef, so to speak, the wine cellar, where was it that how much does the person have to search, okay, in the wine cellar? What rows of barrels or wine skins or earthenware jugs, okay, that the person has to search? So as we continue in this piece of Mishnah, this piece from the Mishnah, okay, I will point out that Art Scroll, Corin does it as well, but the diagrams here are very helpful in appreciating the different views, okay? So the Mishnah said, right, the following, Ubameh amru shtei shurot v'chulei. What did it mean when it said that the had to search 2 rows in the wine cellar? So the Gemara at first asks, Martef man dechar shmei? In regards to a wine cellar, who mentioned it? Hachi kamar. This is what it means to tell us. Kol makom she'ein machnisin bo chametz. Any place where one doesn't bring in chametz, ein tzarich b'dika. It does not require a search. Va'otzrot yayin va'otzrot shemen, and storehouses of wine or storehouses of oil, nami ein tzarich b'dika. They also don't need a search. Ubameh amru shtei shurot b'martef. And under what conditions do we say that they have to search 2 rows in the wine cellar? Makom shemachnisin bo chametz ubemistapek. That's a place where one might enter chametz and where the person supplies himself with his own items. Okay? Sending, for example, a servant there during a meal. Okay? Now, Beit Shammai omrim shtei shurot v'chulei. From our Mishnah, Beit Shammai is saying, right, that they have to say 2 rows, right? So what does that mean? Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, shtei shurot she'amru. The 2 rows that Beit Shammai is referring to, min haaretz va'ad shmei korah, that goes from the floor, the ground, up to the ceiling. Okay? So look on 8b2, the diagram opposite note 16. You'll see that is his explanation. Those are the two rows towards the front. Everything, all the barrels of those rows. That's barrels. Koren did it in earthenware jugs, but it's the same principle. Okay, the first two rows coming in from the entrance to the cellar. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Shura Achad Kamin Ga'am. Rabbi Yochanan says no. Beit Shammai, when it says two rows, it means two rows in the shape of the Greek letter gamma, or what we might call a final chaf, namely up and across. And we see that in diagram B on 8b2, opposite note 17. Okay, that's up and across. Okay. Now, Gemara tells us, Tanya Kivate de Rav Yehuda. There is a braita that seems to support Rav Yehuda's explanation. Right? Tanya Kivate de Rabbi Yochanan. There's a braita that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Tanya Kivate de Rav Yehuda. The braita that supports Rav Yehuda. Beit Shammai Omrim Shtei Shurot Al Pnei Kol Hamartev. That it's two rows on opposite the entire surface of the cellar. Ushtei shurot she'amru, and these two rows, min haaretz va'ad shmei korah, are from the floor up to the ceiling. So again, it's the first two rows. Tanya Kavate de Rabbi Yochanan. And there's a braita that supports the explanation of Rabbi Yochanan. Shtei shurot, the two rows, al pnei kol hamartev, on the entire surface of the cellar. Chitzona ro'eh et hapetach. The outside one, you see, I'm going to say, coming in the entranceway. Ve'elyona, and the upper one, ro'eh et hakira, that you see opposite the ceiling. Okay. Shelifnim heimana v'shelamata heimena ein sarich bedika, and that which is internal, okay, or lower, right, below that, does not need searching. Okay, now we get to Beit Hillel's view. And again, Art Scroll has provided us appropriate diagrams. Okay, Beit Hillel Omri, Shtei Shurot Hachitzonot Shehem Ha'elyonot. According to Beit Hillel, it's the two outer rows that are up. Okay, what does that mean? Amar Rav, says Rav, Elyona v'shelamata hemena. That's above and what's lower than that. Okay, so according to Rav, in that case, okay, we would see diagram C on 8b3. Okay, opposite note 19. Okay, that's when you see it, and up top once. Shmuel Amar, says Shmuel, Elyona, v'shelifnim hemena, what's above and inside. Namely, that's diagram D, according to Shmuel, opposite note 21. Okay, so again, a difference of opinion. My Tama de Rav, what's the view of Rav? Diek chitzonot. He was specific in regards to the outer ones, right? Vaha elyonot katani, but it's taught also upper, right? Lema'ute tatai de tatai. That comes to eliminate, okay, those that are lower and lower, okay, the ones that are, in a sense, behind, okay, right, or beneath those rows. Ushmuel amar el Yonah, v'shelifnim himena, and Shmuel said, was the upper and what was inside from it. Ma'itama, what's his reasoning? Diyek Elionot. He was exact about it being on top. Vahachitzona katani. But it also taught the outside. Lema'ute goyata de goyata. That comes to exclude the innermost of the inner ones. Now, Rabbi Chia Tane Kivate de Rav. Rabbi Chia taught this machloket according to the view of Rav. Okay? The Kulhu Tanai and all the other Tanaim. In other words, when they would publicly announce this learning, right? All the others would announce it. Tanu Kivate de Shmuel. They taught it more according to the perspective of Shmuel. Now the Gemara, our Gemara concludes, Vehilchata Kivate de Shmuel. And the law is according to Shmuel. However, there's an interesting discussion, both in Art Scroll and in Koran, to tell us that it appear that the last three words of the Amud are not found in all Gemara texts. Because in actuality, the poskim decide in favor of Rav, okay? Because it's issues of Isur, of ritual. And that is the case. So we're going to finish up there. We start a new Mishnah tomorrow, okay? And since, by the way, we mentioned a concern previously on the Chet Amud Beis, remember we talked about the fact that ravens in our Gemara could eat any leaven that's in courtyards. Or we talked about the fact that we were concerned about animals being damaged when the owner is away to Aliyah L'Regel, and they mention in particular the Huldah. That is going to be one of the items we'll pick up tomorrow, okay, in the new Mishnah. Okay, so everybody have a good day. Take care and stay well, everybody.
Thank you very much. And you too.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye-bye.
Bye.